And I'm going to take that poetic license today to go through a few works by each of the three artists. Then we'll do, I believe, 3 exercises and then move to something special. So we will do first, I am happy to talk about what I'm doing later, but I think we should do it instead. So here we go. This is just an entry for you to have had something to look at as we came in, and then our survey of the exhibition. I'm going to give each of these about as much time as a typical adult looks at a work of art, and then a few seconds extra. Just imagine yourself strolling. Rather than being abrupt, I will say something inane like, and next, each time, so you know we're about to change. And next. And another. And next. If you feel yourself saying, no, no, not yet, that's wonderful. Because it means you're being an independent viewer who doesn't want to be pushed around by an intermediary like me. And next. And another. Oops. And next. And another. I believe one more from this artist. Now, what you would probably do if you were in a gallery and you realized you're about to shift over to another artist or enter a new room is you'd probably stop and stretch or look at the floor or whatever. So this white slide stands for take a little bit of an eye intensity interval. And then we'll look at a couple of works by the next artist in the exhibition. You will recognize the manner of them. And another. And I have to check my own notes here. Yeah, one more. Again, a rest for the eyes and the mind. We'll be looking at a few works by the third artist in this exhibition. Here we go. Oh, I forgot to give you one. All right, now I'd like you to imagine that, oh, excuse me. All right. Now I'd like you to imagine that you've had a chance to stroll through and you've just heard the person back at the entry to the exhibit hall say, "Are you here today for this workshop? Why don't you come around?" So give yourself a moment to close your eyes, shake out your body a little bit. I don't know, Sarah, did we alert people that we would like them to have a piece of paper and a pencil? You're muted. If you would, please, if you don't have, so grab an envelope out of your recycling bin or a piece of or a pencil, something that you can write with. All right. While you're doing that, I'll give a couple of the basic ground rules of doing EQE, so you'll know what you're in for. One of them would be normally in a gallery that I'd say, we're ready to do an exercise now. Why don't you find a work within the sound of my voice in this gallery that you would like to spend a few minutes with? And the one real loss that we have in the virtual environment is I can't show you 13 things to choose from and have them be of a visible size and also not have them be incredibly distracting on the same screen. So instead, I've made a somewhat differentiated sample for 3 different exercises, which will show you some quite different works in the show. And my hope is that you will, as I put on the screen and ask you, what I'm going to ask you to do is to choose which of the 2 images on the screen you want to give your minutes to. For those of you trained in an art historical manner, the reason I say this is because it is not putting up 2 images and asking you to do a compare and contrast like you are taking a quiz. So it's a choice of 2 that you will put your attention to. Second ground rule of EQE is that nobody has to volunteer anything if they don't want to. And that in order not to get between you and the work and connections that develop between you and the work, that I want you to know I'm not going to say, we're going to share at the end of this. You don't have to. I generally do ask if there's a volunteer or two who would like to tell us what they did. But sometimes it's completely silent and I have a few things to say and we go along and that's fine. So those are the two ground rules. The first two exercises are ones that you have done with me a number of times because they're the two core exercises. And then the third is something different for this exhibition. What I'm going to ask you to do is to pick which of these two works you'd like to spend a few minutes with. Some people have told me that it's actually helpful to them if they just cover up the other one with a sheet of paper on the screen. And if you do, that's no problem for us. We won't even know. So make a choice. And then with your paper and pencil or pen, if that's what you have, I'd like you to generate a list of words in the form of a column. Generally, it's great if you can aim for adjectives or really short descriptive phrases. Just the words that come to mind as you are looking at the work. And as much as possible, if they're on the adjectival end of our vocabulary, that would be great. You'll have several minutes, and then I will ask you to do two more things and suggest a third to you with your list. But this is your time. Now, if the words keep on flowing, just keep writing them down. And if you have to go grab another envelope out of your recycling bin, that's fine. If you find that they're not coming, I'm going to ask you to just push on through until you get to at least 10 words or terms in your list. If you find that you're petering out, just close your eyes. While you're there, make a mental note of what's in your mind's eye, what you're seeing visually in your mind's eye. But mostly just rest your eyes, open them, and see if that jump starts your responses. Now, to those of you who choose to have your video off, that's perfectly fine. I am going to tell you that I gauge how much time we need for each exercise by the manner of head downedness or head upedness of the people that I can see. So if you would like more time and you're writing furiously, just click your video on for a minute and I'll be able to tell. If your reactions are flowing, just let them flow. Don't worry yourself about whether there's something you're supposed to write down or not. Doesn't matter a bit. We'll take another minute, and then I'll ask you to do two things with your list. All right. Whenever you're ready, let me ask you just to close your eyes again, to rest them. And then as I see a number of open eyes after closed eyes, I'll know that we're ready to go ahead. But don't rush yourself. All right. What I'd like you to do is to read down your list quite slowly. And as you're going through it, circle the three words or the three short expressions that seem to you to say the most about the work, seem the most significant or the most memorable responses. And then I'd like you to read down your list one more time. And as you're reading, pay attention to how you're feeling, right, or how you're remembering what it was like to look at this work. And at the point in the list where you began to stall out, or your words seemed to you to be suddenly far-fetched or repetitive, or you only kept going because I said you had to do at least 10. At that moment in the list, please put a line between the words. And it's entirely possible that the line will be at the very top or at the very bottom, but generally it's somewhere in the middle. And if you have to read it twice, that's fine, to find that moment. All right. For those of you who would like to push this further, think of it as like a yoga exercise where some people are going to go deeper into the pose for longer. If you would like to, remember that you can find these works online in the virtual exhibition. And what I would like to suggest that you do sometime is to read down the list and put the letter I for any of the words you've written that are definitely about it, about the work, about the thing. And to put a letter M for those words that are actually about you and your response to the work. And even though this will be independent on the honor system, there's only one absolute rule. You can't split the identifiers. You have to put an I or an M next to all of them and not an I/M. So that's something to think about doing at another time, or taking this exercise and doing it with another work of art. Now I am going to ask if there's anyone who would like to tell us which work they were looking at and to read their list. It can be the people who are on video or off video. It doesn't matter at all. Would like to share?
I'll try it.
Thank you, Anne.
I started with crumble, light and
Which
shadow.
work, I'm sorry, Anne, which work did you look at?
Oh, the one on the right, my right.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
The paper that looked like it's crumbled up.
Got it. Thank you so much.
That's the way I started looking at that, and it looked like paper that was crumbled up. But it transformed about, just as you said, about halfway to
read us the list as you wrote it, please.
Light and shadow, crumble, trash, mistake, dark and light, again, natural, rock formation, transformation. That's it.
And which were your 3 words that you circled?
Crumble, meditation, and transformation, and I don't know, I can't read that word, transformation.
Transformation. All right, may I ask you to read the list one more time and tell us where the line is, and then just keep going.
Well, my list wasn't one after the other, was scribbled. So I didn't really have a, but I do know what you're saying, because I did have that moment, but I can't tell you exactly.
All right, well then we won't worry about it at all. But I thank you for sharing, because everybody sees very differently, and it's great to be able to hear that.
I thought it was an amazing experience. I have to say.
Thank you.
Because I started saying, what? Good. It just looks like crumbled paper.
All right. Let me tell you what's going on for all of you. What you're looking at is a journal written in real time of your responses to the work of art in the order in which they happened. It's not just a list of words that you would collect if you were to write a visual analysis essay, for an assignment. It's a record of your responses to the work through time. And those 3 words, well, those are the things that, of all the impressions that you noted, those are the 3 that seem to really matter. So I want to ask about a bit about what that line is. As you go down the list, Jane, have you raised your hand so you could share? Would you like to? I'm going to break in then, because I would like to read her list, if she would.
Okay, I chose the item on the left.
Thank you. And your list.
Art Deco, Egyptian motifs, Native American style, beautiful colors, balanced, delicate, alive, tree of life, peaceful, fine lines.
And your 3 words?
balanced, tree of life, peaceful.
And would you read your list? Tell us where the line is and keep going.
Art Deco, Egyptian motif, Native American style, beautiful colors. That's where the line is.
Mhm.
Balanced, delicate, alive, tree of life, peaceful, fine lines.
Thank you so much. Good. These two examples, let me, especially the one in the form of a list, let me talk about what that line is. As you're having a group of responses, everybody's attention span eventually, gets tired. And that line is the point that your, whatever looking habits you've developed over time, however you look at works of art, more or less, to oversimplify, that line is the point at which those looking habits, those looking skills fade out. And what's below the line is what you saw after you took a second lid. And it usually means after you started experimenting with looking, after you start stretching the way you usually look at a work of art. Generally speaking, our circles are at the top of the list, somewhere above the line. Sometimes there's one below the line. And gradually, if you do this exercise several times, you will find that your circles drop down below the line, which means that having taken more time than usual and having processed it, looked at it one way and then shifted and stretched, looking at it another way, you're seeing things that you would not have seen if you had walked away at the point that most people walk away from a work of art. That everything's below the line you would have missed. And I would also comment that that was about 18 to 20 times the normal looking time that we charted people in the gallery. It's about 6 minutes. Let's move to a second exercise, and I'm going to have to be a little brisk, but this is a shorter one. So a moment to refresh your eyes. And then again, I'm going to ask you to choose one of the two works to look at. And in this case, I'm going to give you your marching orders first, my suggestions to you, which is that as you're choosing a work of art, please pay attention to where your eye lands first. And I will talk you through it from there. So first, please pick one of these that you'd like to spend a few minutes looking at. You don't have to write anything for this one. Be attentive, be aware of where your eye landed first. And then as you are looking, what I want you to do is pay attention to the path that your eye takes through the work. And it goes one place, where does it go next? And where does it go next? And so on. And should you pause, stop and take a quick mental note to see if you know why your eye paused. It might be something about the work or something about you. And then if your eye goes on like a Ouija board, just follow it until it comes to rest. And pay attention to where it comes to rest. We'll take a couple of 3 minutes for this. when your eyes come to rest, just close your eyes a minute and give them a rest. All right. Is there anyone, maybe just one person this time, who would care to lead us through the path that their eye took with either work of art? Would you, Jennifer? That would be great. And which did you choose first?
I chose the image on the left, the tree. So, should I go? So I think my eye sort of started and zeroed in on that dark mass at the bottom. And then I started to move up the trunk. I paused where there sort of was a circle around a branch. And then I started moving to the left, all the way kind of up into the corner. But then I moved down to see the jagged branches along the
Down here.
far left side. And then I moved back up and followed all the lacy foliage around the picture. And then I think I went back down, and I couldn't decide whether my eye rested on the loop or the dark shape again.
Mm-hmm. There you go. It came back around full circle.
Mm-hmm.
Good. In the interest, thank you, Jennifer, so much, and Anne and Jane. In the interest of time, I'm going to jump in and talk a little bit about what's going on here. I recommend to anybody who really wants to understand this stuff, there are 3 pages written by a man named Rudolf Arnheim in his lectures at the Getty Institute to Art Educators in 1980s, I believe. We'll send you the citation, in which in 3 pages with one illustration of an eye, he talks about the difference between seeing, which is what our eye does, and looking, which is what our eye does when it's toggling with our mind. Kind of interaction between seeing something and processing and integrating it and seeing the next thing and so on, in which he describes the process, the fact that you cannot look at something, especially not a work of art, without your eye traveling. If you want some time, try looking at a whole work of art for 1 minute without moving your eyes and you'll believe me. So that once you start looking at something, what your mind does is try to figure out, to make sense of what you're seeing. So it moves to a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, or it jumps up to something the same color, but you start adding stimuli or information to understand what you're seeing. And that means both recognizing it if it's an object and understanding its underlying themes and messages. So most individuals will see in roughly similar ways, allowing for optical difference and so on. But our looking, if you were to do this side by side with another person in the gallery and you were quietly, without speaking, looking at the same work, even if your eye started at the same point because the artist kind of gave you a door in, a kind of indicator where to begin, your path through the work would diverge more and more and more, because your individual mind, as opposed to the other person's individual mind, becomes more and more a part of the process of exploration as time goes on. So that 2 people or 50 people looking at the same work of art are literally seeing I mean, if they're looking, they're seeing something different because their eye has taken a different journey and they may have literally missed whole sections, or their understanding of what they're looking at depends in part in what sequence that they have added those parts. So I recommend both eye travel and adjectives to anybody every time you go to a new place to look at a work of art. To help exercise the tolerance for ambiguity, we're going to do one more exercise quickly and then shift over to something completely different. But this is a gift for this show, which is full of ambiguities. So cast your eye again. And this time you're going to be drawing for yourself a little quick schematic sketch. And no, you don't have to show it to anybody. And then I'm going to ask you to pick one work to give your attention to. Now draw a frame on your piece of paper that is roughly the proportion of the one you choose. And then I'd like you to make a squiggle or a quick outline or an X where you see something that you would like to understand better in order to understand the work better. Or put another way, where you see something that you don't recognize or you don't understand, that you would want to go back to and think about or look into in the richness of time in order to understand the work better. And as much as there is such a hierarchy, I'd like you to pick the most important one first. So what do you think would be the aspect, the part, the feature that you would most want to give more attention, thought, or information to understanding the work? And when you've made that squiggle, I'd like you to look around again and pick the second most important thing that you would want to understand better or learn more about or recognize if your goal was to understand the whole work of art, if you had all the time in the world. And then the third such feature or bit or area and if the thing that is you would want to explore more is, for instance, an area of shine or an area of color or an area of shadow, just put a circle around it and write, the color or shadow or texture. And then I'm going to ask you to pick a fourth and mark it, squiggle it, exit, draw it in quickly. And then go back and number your 4 choices in order. Because the exhibition is available in the gallery and virtually speaking online, you can go find these. And if you want to do this, read an essay by the artist or go look at their webpage and see if there's information about why these features are meaningful to them. or look them up in an index of symbols or whatever, but you can explore the work further after you're first looking at it, because one of our themes underlying today is returning to look, looking at things one time and then maybe another time and then another time. So this is the intro to your giving this work another look sometime. And in a half minute, we're going to shift over to something completely different after one short reflective moment with this exhibition before we leave it. And here we go. I'd like to give you a chance to wind down. Oops, wait a moment. Something's done. I've just hit the button wrong. Okay. I'd like to give you a moment just to return to where you began, coming in to the Zoom room and take another look. And then we will shift gears. All right. Thank you to the artists and the gallery who made impact happen. We'll shift over to thinking about a little bit about what our winters may be like. And you'll be seeing some of this work again. I was asked early in the spring by a couple of different groups if I would come up with something that people could do at home so that they could enrich their looking at art and distract themselves from boredom at home. And this is an idea which has gradually acquired the name triptych. So what I'd like to encourage you to do sometime on a nasty rainy day or later in the winter is to look around your house. Look around, there are two ways to do this. Look around your house at what's already on the walls or up on a bureau or on an end table or even being used as a doorstop. But look for those objects of art, very broadly defined, which you or a member of your household or your landlord has brought into the house. And to give them a fresh look. Look at the things that are there that you don't even notice most of the time. And then choose 3 of them that you would like to spend a little time with. As it happens, these 3 are 3 works of art by members of my family. And if you look closely over my shoulder, they're right over there. There's a drawing by my son when he was 9, a floral arrangement by my great aunt, about 100 years old, and then a student painting by my brother who went on to be an artist. And I chose them and put them up so that I could look at them together and the relationships between them. And I'd like to encourage you to go explore in your home and do the same thing. Put them up on a drawer, put them on a dresser, put them in front of the fireplace, put them on a window where there's not too much harmful sun for a week or so. These just happen to be, I chose them because they were by members of my family, but you can choose them for whatever reason you want. These are things I found in a closet. So either look at the things that are around you all the time that you don't notice, or look at the things that have been put under the bed or in the closet and put away, and think about what you might like to bring out and put into a triptych. Exhibited, so to speak, together for about a week or so. Could be portraits of people you know or know of. This happens to be my godfather. Or it could be 3, imagine you own 3 works from the exhibition. You can look at them, you can arrange them one way, Maybe put them where you're going to have your morning coffee, or where you settle down before you turn the news on, or I don't know, when you sit on the sofa when you're about to open your mail, and take just a few moments to look fresh over a week, several times during the week. And if you want, oops, you can, I'm sorry, I've got another cycle. You can rearrange them. So this is one way. Shift them around in order and look at them for another couple of days. Let's see if the relationships change. For example, oh, wait a moment, I'm sorry, there. Here are 3 works from Impact, 1 each from the artists. Imagine they were in your home. And switch them around. Simply making the change will make you see. It's like closing your eyes to refresh them. So if I were sitting down, I would sort of almost like doing a yoga meditation, but just letting myself be quiet and observe and look for relationships. And I thought we would do one of these for a moment with this. So settle yourself quietly. We'll take a couple of minutes to look at these. You can do this with anything that you collect and put beside your coffee table. And I'd like you to just let your eyes travel between the 3. Just let them do whatever they're doing. Pay attention to where your eye, which work your eye lands on. Which sort of do you give it the most attention to? And ask yourself if you know why. And give it a little time. And then notice if your eyes are darting back and forth between the works, or whether you're meandering. And if you're meandering, are you taking in all 3? Or for some reason that has to do with your connection to the work, have you basically chosen 2 of them and let the 3rd go? Or have you chosen 1 because some kind of a connection has happened? It could be affinity or annoyance. It could be pleasure in a particular color, or an associative memory to an ancestor or a schoolroom. And if your eye settles on one work more than the others, close your eyes, give it a rest, and then make yourself move from that work to take in all 3 of them. Ask yourself if you'd really like to rearrange them or remove one, and why. And then, if you're imagining this was one of your sittings at home with 3 things that you chose, ask yourself a question about them. Write it down on a scratch of paper somewhere near where they're sitting. And then use that quick phrase or quick question as your starting point the next time. And promise yourself that you'll come back and look at them again, tomorrow or each morning with coffee, and just reconnect with the work that you've surrounded yourself with in your home, or which surrounds you in your home. And, oh, I'm sorry, that was an error. I put some extra things in. I'd like to go back and leave us here. So I encourage you all to, oh, excuse me, I'm having two different things my cursor's trying to do. I'd like to encourage you all as you settle into probably more time at home in November, December, January, to think about what you can bring out of your house, out from the corners of your house, and to give them new life by return looking. Because when you look at something anew, you see things you never saw before. I think probably most of all of us have had that experience. For example, if you go back and see something in a gallery that you saw when you were in college and now you're not in college anymore. But you also feel something about what the change is in you and are, in a sense, talking to yourself about why you're seeing them differently now than when I hung it up on the dining room wall 10 years ago. Or who, if it was a gift from someone, am I seeing the work more or am I feeling the presence of the person who gave it to me more? And that's where I think it's especially important to focus on developing the I-Val relationship and return looking with the art that you've put into your life. And that's where we're going to end today, unless there are questions. And I thank you very much for coming. Anybody have a question or a comment? I'm happy to stay online afterwards to answer any questions about what the heck is going on behind the curtain. And I think that Jane has her hand up, if that's not left over from earlier. Oh, okay. Then I will simply be here and wish you thank you and wish you good looking through the winter and using art as a way of keeping from shutting down too much, especially if you're someone who's more enclosed. And thank you very much. And thank you to Sarah.
Thank you all for joining us for part 4. Thanks, Annie, for joining us once again. I believe this is your 4th time with us. And I'm always very, very happy to have you. And I learn something every time we do this.
I'm glad. So do I.
Annie is actually working on her book, Exercises for the Quiet Eye. So that should be coming out maybe within the next year. Annie, would you say?
Well, I've been given a fellowship at Ragdale Art Colony, which is north of Chicago. And I think the timetable probably depends upon whether I take 2 months or 6 months, because COVID has made these flexible and when it's going to be. If I go longer, it'll be later. If I go shorter, it'll be sooner. But yes, a yearish.
Good, good. Well, I'll be following up with you all with an email and a link to our YouTube channel so that you can visit this session or previous sessions. We are having Impact up until November 20th, but you can virtually see that online too through our website. And again, thank you for joining us. We're working on upcoming educational programs for the time that we will be away, and the students will be going online November 21st, I believe, until February 1st, but the museum's still going to be here and we'll be doing virtual programming. So I hope you guys can join us. Please stay in touch. And again, I'm going to follow up with an email and I hopefully
by all means, feel free to share the recipes for those first 2 exercises. So everybody has.
I sure will. I'll attach documents and links. And also I am hoping to invite Annie back in the springtime so we can keep this conversation going.
Oh, goody. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you all.
Hey, Annie, I went to Ragdale and liked it a lot.